Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into the 9th Autumn 2023 update from GavsWeatherVids. So here we go again, it's time to bring you more autumn data, and this week we're looking at more for July and also a little bit for the summer that we are currently experiencing as well. So more about that in right, going to be an interesting update I think, and I shall get on with it for you very shortly. Just say we've only got a couple of weeks left now until we release GavsWeatherVids autumn forecast, so it's just one more autumn update to do after this one next week, and then in 2 weeks time we will be releasing the GavsWeatherVids autumn 2023 forecast. So we're virtually at the end of the updates now, but two more to go with this one and next week's, and I shall get on with the 9th autumn update for you in a second. Thank you so much to Richard for the incredible autumn updates again. I'm going to turn off the webcam very briefly so you can see our dancing owl. There he is, swaying from side to side. Do 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 do. I'm so sorry, everybody. Yes, so thank you so much to Rich for the gift. And of course, we named the Fox and the Owl a couple of weeks ago. So it's Foxy the Fox and also Jenny the Owl. Foxy and Jenny. We named them a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, I think they both own suit, don't they? They suit the Fox and the Owl. Thank you so much to Richard for our amazing autumn update gift number one, because we've had two autumn gifts this season. So thank you so much to Richard for the two autumn updates gifts. Thank you to Shryan as well, Shryan Bruin, for getting together all of the relevant years for this update as well. That's epic. Thank you so much, Shryan, for doing that. Hashtag Team Gav working together. Of course, the Owl and the Fox were named by my friend Brian Kitching, and you know, everybody's name's when I'm a name picker, but it was Brian's choices, you know, nominations that won for Foxy and Jenny. And I know that Brian had some pretty bad news a few days ago. So Brian lost his dad recently. So I just say I'm so sorry for your loss, my friend. And you know, you're in my fortune, the thoughts of everybody at GavsWeatherVids as well. And I'm so sorry. I know what it's like. I've been through it myself with both my mum and my dad, and I wish I could take away your hurt and your pain and your grief, but I can't do that. But I can, you know, offer the support and the love of GavsWeatherVids. And, you know, I'm so sorry, Brian, and please know that we're all thinking of you. And, of course, rest in peace to your lovely, lovely dad. Okay, we're going to start off with the NAO for this 9th Autumn 2023 update. So, here we go. We're looking at the NAO for July. So, this is the NAO observed in the forecast chart from NOAA. The black line shows where we've been with the North Atlantic Oscillation. The red lines are the AM Weather GFS ensembles are forecasting the North Atlantic Oscillation to go. You can see that through July, that's 1st July, 1st of August just there. You can see that through July we have a negative NAO, and especially so through the first half of July, actually, when it was very, very negative. And on the actual index, the NAO is still negative now, by the way. Even into August, we're still looking at a negative NAO. So we are going through quite a prolonged and protracted negativity of the North Atlantic Oscillation. Even as far back as May, we did see quite a pronounced period of negative NAO condition. Anyway, back to July. So on the NAO index, and of course this goes back to 1950 on a month-by-month basis, on the NAO index we can see that it was actually an exceptionally negative NAO that we had in July. It came out at minus 2.17, which actually places July 2023 in the top 10 most negative NAOs of the, you know, since 1950. So, you know how we love a countdown here at GavsWeatherVids. We love a top 10. We love a countdown. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at autumn's following the top 10 most negative NAO July. I'm so sorry, everybody. Right, let's start off at number 10. The 10th most negative NAO in July since 1950 was 2012, and the autumn of 2012 has a big trough of below average heights across the north and the west of Europe, with a ridge out in the Atlantic heading up towards Greenland. We're on the cool side of a jet stream a lot of the time in this autumn, so it is a cool and unsettled autumn in 2012. Not desperately cold, but certainly one of the cooler autumns that we have had since the last really cold autumn, which was in 1993. So to start us off, we've got a cool, wet autumn in 2012. At number 9, we've got 2019, the 9th most negative NAO. In July was in 2019. This one again similar in some ways to 2012, but not quite as dramatic. Or I said traumatic, man. No, it wasn't traumatic, and it wasn't as dramatic as 2012. But nevertheless, it was quite a cool and unsettled wet autumn that we had there in 2019. There was a blocking signal around Greenland, and again the jet stream is pushed southwards, so a rather cool and wet autumn in 2019. In 2011, we're at number 8, so the 8th most negative autumn, the 8th most negative NAO July is July 2011. The autumn of 2011 looks like this, with the below average heights out in the Atlantic, the above average heights away to our east. So this is a much milder, warmer autumn, even with a lot of southerly winds, a lot of southerly influences with the wind flow and with the jet stream too. So low pressure out in the Atlantic, high pressure and we're over the continent, and winds a lot of time coming up from the south. That was one of, if not the warmest autumn on record. At number 7, we've got 1958. This is an anti-cyclonic autumn. It does have a pretty wet September, but this one has quite a bit of high pressure sitting to our north and winds coming in from more of an easterly type direction with that autumn. So after the wet September, I think October and November turn significantly drier in 1958. At number 6, we've got 2016. The 6th most negative NAO July was that of 2016. The autumn of 2016 has plenty of high pressure domination over and to the north and to the northeast of the country. Has a very hot September, and particularly hot spell in the middle of September, where we reached 34 degrees across some parts of the country. Also a lot of thunderstorms with that as well. After that, it does cool down inevitably, but still generally quite mild and often reasonably dry as well in 2016. At number 5, we've got 2009. So this is one of those analogues that doesn't tell you everything about the overall scenario. We see low pressure way to our north and west, high pressure down towards Spain and Portugal. The thing with this autumn is that September and October are exceptionally dry. There's almost like an autumn drought going on through September into October, with a lot of places having no measurable rain for several weeks. It is, I think, about the driest October since 1978. And then in November, it all flips around. We turn very wet in November of 2009. So overall, it's a mixed bag, but it's generally a much milder than average autumn. Very, very dry for the early middle part of it, and then very wet in the latter stages. At number 4, we've got 2023. So yes, July 2023 was the 4th most negative on the NAO index back to 1950. What does the autumn of 2023 have in store? That's the questions that we are trying to answer, and in 2 weeks' time, all will be revealed. In a fortnight, Gav's gonna reveal all. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know, but yeah, there we go. 2023 was the 4th most negative July. At number 3, we've got 1962. So we're top 3 now. The 3rd most negative NAO July was 1962. This one with some higher pressure just out to the west of the country and bringing wind often from northwesterly or northerly directions. It's a cold autumn, especially so later on. Relatively dry autumn with this one, but below average temperature setting up, of course. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The daddy of cold winter, 62, 63. At number 2, we've got 2015. This is a much milder autumn. It does have a very cool September. Last time we had a sub 13 CT September was in 2015. Overall, a lot of anticyclonic influences, so quite a dry autumn. And after a cool start, it does get significantly milder as it goes along. Exceptionally mild in November of 2015, which of course sets up that extraordinarily warm, maybe even you'd say hot December 2015. And then finally, the number 1, the most negative NAO July since 1950, and that's when we started measuring the NAO, by the way. Records don't go back before that, really. But number 1, it's 1993, and the autumn of 1993 had our last genuinely cold autumn, really, with high pressure blocking between Iceland and Scandinavia, and let's change the colour, low pressure being pushed down towards Spain and Biscay, and this brings in the wind from an easterly direction much of the time. So it has a cold, or very cool anyway, and wet September. It has a cold October as well, with some frost and even a little bit of early season snowfall. And it does have a cold November as well, actually, with easterly winds bringing snow at times and quite a bit of frost through November of 1993. That is our last really cold autumn. Of course, we have that cooler autumn since then, as I've explained. We had 2012, 2008, 2010, to some degree late on anyway. But our last, properly cold autumn was so many years ago now, back in 1993. Okay, let's start putting all that together then, and this is how all Septembers combined are looking following the top 10 most negative Julys, and it's an unsettled signal for the Septembers with below average heights in off the Atlantic. Higher pressure is towards southeastern parts of Europe, interesting, so a warm signal for the Balkans and whatnot. Possibly some sort of higher pressure up here towards Iceland as well sometimes, so that could bring a drier scenario for the Septembers, but keep in mind that that's a cooler position for the ridge, so not an overly warm signal for the Septembers. A complete flip, I should say, put teeth in Gav, for all Octobers combined. Goes to high pressure domination, anti-cyclonic signal with high pressure sitting there over, over the UK and Ireland, and also northern parts of Europe as well. So a very dry anti-cyclonic signal for those Octobers. And then all Novembers combined look like that. The high pressure generally moving away to more eastern and northeastern parts of Europe. Lower pressure is in the Atlantic heading towards us. So that looks like a more unsettled signal for the Novembers, but also milder as well. There's no particularly cold signal there for those Novembers, but whilst it is a wetter signal, it should be relatively mild a lot of the time, with wind in from a sort of southerly, southeasterly type direction much of the time. And then all autumns combined, probably in the top 10 most negative NAOs, Julys looks like that. Overall, it's an anticyclonic signal, and that's primarily down to October, of course. We have above average heights across much of central, northern and eastern Europe. Low pressure south to the Atlantic and towards our south. Bearing in mind, September does have a rather more unsettled signal, and so does November as well. There's no real signal for anything overly cold with a lot of these autumns, but of course got 1993 in there, which is a genuinely cold autumn as well. But overall, it does look as though these analogues are favouring a relatively mild autumn, and with a mix of weather, but overall for the 3 months as a whole, an anticyclonic type signal. Right, we'll pause the video there, and when we come back, we're going to have more data for you. And for our second set of analogues, we're actually looking at something summer-based. Now, more about that in a second. I'll see you in a mo. Okay, we're back. And we're ready to resume the ninth and I suppose penultimate autumn 2023 update, brought to you via GavsWeatherVids. If you've enjoyed this autumn update so far, and why wouldn't you have done, remember making you like, share and subscribe. And thank you so very much everybody for doing that. Make sure you drop a comment when you watch the video and let us know what you think about it. We thank you so very much everybody for doing that. Going to be live streaming at 6 p.m. this evening. Going to have our Sunday evening live stream. We'll bring you short range, medium range, long range as well. I'll be going through the live chat, taking questions and shouting you out and whatnot. So if you've got any questions about this autumn update, then fire away on the live stream at 6 p.m. this evening. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. Thank you to Richard for our gift, of course. Right, let's continue then with the 9th autumn update. So for this set, we're actually going to be looking at a little bit of summer data, although it is only like the first half of August, so obviously you haven't got the final set in. But this summer is starting to look like it might possibly be a front-loaded summer, and been quite a lot of interest in that prospect, you know, front-loaded summers and what could the autumn be like after a front-loaded summer. A few people have asked me about that, so I thought we would have a look at the analogues of that. But bear in mind, you know, we don't know yet whether this will be classified as a front-loaded summer. If August turns hot and dry, then it won't be a front-loaded summer. At the moment, this is looking like it could be a front-loaded summer, but you're going to have to wait until we get to the end of August to see whether we will classify this as a classic front-loaded summer. Anyway, I'll just go through the anomaly maps at the UK Met. So in June, of course, we had a significantly warmer than average month, especially so for western regions, but also in the east. It was a very warm June. It was also a dry June as well, where we got the rainfall. There we go. So you see it was a relatively dry June in many places. Well, average a bit drier than average really, but July it all flips around. So if we go back to mean temperatures and have a look at July, you can see actually we come out average to cooler than average, so obviously a significant cool down from June to July, and perhaps more dramatically so, look at the rainfall, that goes significantly wetter than average across most parts of the country. So yes, obviously a deterioration, pronounced and quite severe deterioration from June to July. We're waiting to see what August has in store. If August was to continue after July, then it would be a front-loaded summer. If August turns into a warm or a hot and dry month, then it won't be a front-loaded summer. But we are going to look at autumns following front-loaded summer. Shriners picked these out for us. So we start off with 1950, the first front-loaded summer that Shriners picked out is that of 1950. The autumn of 1950 been showing up a lot in our updates this year. Is a very, very wet autumn, has a wet September, wet October, wet November as well. So it's low pressure all the way in the North Atlantic into western parts of Europe as well. We got 1951, which Shriners picked out as another front-loaded summer. This one with low pressure more to the west and south, higher pressure towards Scandinavia. Still an unsettled summer, but probably a warmer signal and not quite as unsettled for that one. We got 1957, which is the next front-loaded summer. That was a really warm June that had 1957, and then the rest of summer deteriorates. So this one for the autumn has higher pressure sitting over into the west of the country. Trough of low pressure is in over Scandinavia as well. So the autumn of 1957 does have a wet September, and then it turned drier later on. Then we got 1960. Again, this has been showing up a lot in this season, but updates, I would imagine this is leading. You know, this is leading. Yeah, I don't know. I've not seen the data yet. I'll get to see that before I do the autumn forecast. But I would imagine this has got to be at least one of the leading analog years. It has shown up a lot this year, and this autumn very wet, lots of low pressure in from the Atlantic into West Europe, bit of blocking to our north as well. That's a very unsettled autumn in 1960. 1961 shows up next as the next front-loaded summer. That's one with low pressure through the western side of Europe. So again, quite an unsettled signal for that. I think 1961 has a very dry and warm spell in September, though. Somebody will somebody will correct me if I'm wrong about that. 1970 was a front-loaded summer as well, with low pressure up to the north, high pressure down to the south in the autumn. So that's a relatively mild and rather unsettled autumn that we have in 1970, following what was a very hot June actually in 1970, and then again the rest of the summer is much more unsettled. Quite a long gap to 1986. So the next front-load summer Shrines picked out is 1986. The autumn of 1986, again with low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. This is a westerly autumn as well. The analog doesn't tell you anything about this autumn though. So September 1986 was very cold, unusually so, had a sub 12 CET. The last time we had a September CET in the 11s was in 1986, with quite a lot of early season frost. It was also a relatively dry month. And then the rest of the autumn, October, November, reverts to a much more typical pattern, which is milder, more westerly, and rather unsettled, especially so up in the north. 1988 is the next front-loaded summer that Shrines picked out. Had a terrible July in 1988, but June did have the driest weather of the summer, I think. The overall anticyclonic signal for the autumn does have quite cold weather in November of 1988. 1992 is another front-loaded summer. The autumn of 1992 looks like that, with low pressure into much of northern Europe. High pressure is away to the southwest. This one has quite an unsettled September with about average temperatures. Cold October, though it has an October that has a lot of frost, especially in the second half of the month, and even a little bit of winteriness as well. And then a relatively mild and unsettled November in 1992. Just 1 year on to 1993, it's back. We spoke about it in the first set of analogues for this autumn update. This, of course, is the last genuinely cold autumn that we've had, with low pressure down to the south, high pressure away to the north, winds in from the east. All three of the autumn months are quite substantially colder than average, or cooler than average. Very wet in September as well. Not as wet in October and November, but still often quite cold. And November does have, yes, easterly winds with frost and snow at time. And then we've got 2010, of course, front-loaded summer. It's hot in June of 2010. Glasgow was turned into a bit of a dust bowl, but by August it's breaking, and we have a very wet and quite cool August in 2010. Overall, the analogue for the autumn of 2010 looks like this, with below average heights, low pressure across much of Europe, high pressure blocking things out towards Greenland, and pulling in the wind from a north or a northeasterly direction. So the groundwork being laid there for the December to remember, of course. September 2010, about average temperatures, a mix of weather, sometimes unsettled, sometimes drier. October, I think, is a relatively dry month, but does get quite cold at times, with early season ground frost. And then November 2010 has a very mild burst up, which of course a lot of people forget about that month. It is very mild, with southwesterly winds in the first week to 10 days of November 2010, but turns progressively cold, and the final 10 days, of course, turns severely cold, brutally cold, with heavy snowfalls by month's end, taking us into the December to remember. And then the last time we had a classic front-loaded summer was 2017, June 2017, significantly drier than average. August 2017, rather cool and wet overall. The analogue for the autumn of 2017 looks like that, with below average heights to our north and east, above average heights out to the west, and winds coming in from northwesterly direction. It has quite a cool, wet September in 2017. I think the last time we had a cool, wet September actually was in 2017. October is a much milder month, and of course gets the remains of Hurricane Ophelia, which turns the skies that Martian orange colour. And then November 2017 has a mix of weather, but is quite cold at times. You know, it has a couple of cold snaps from the north. Right, let's put all of that together then, and then we're going to be done. So this is how all Septembers combined are looking, following classic front-loaded summers. Very unsettled for those Septembers, with lots of low pressure in off the Atlantic into the west of Europe, a very wet signal and cool too for the Septembers. October, nowhere near as clear cut. All October is combined with a ridge of high pressure just out to our west, low pressure generally getting pushed to the south and also towards the northwest. That could be a more anticyclonic signal for the Octobers. And then November goes back to the unsettled weather with again low pressure across much of the North Atlantic and into northern and central and also western parts of Europe as well. A wet signal for those Novembers, I should say. Not particularly cold, because there's not any really strong northern blocking going on with that. And then finally, this is how all autumns combined looking following classic front-loaded summers with lots of low pressure into the North Atlantic and through Europe as well. Obviously an unsettled signal. October has the greatest potential to be dry, but even that one is not clear cut, just looks generally like front-loaded summers favour rather unsettled autumn. So we'll see about that. Okay, that's it then. But again, we don't know if this is a classic front-loaded summer. So this set of analogues, I think, needs to take a little bit of a pinch of salt, because the signals for August might actually take us away from a front-loaded summer. And, it could be like a sandwich summer, which has a lot of dry and warm weather on one slice, and on the bottom slice, and in the middle we get the filling, which of course was the very wet July. But we'll wait and see. We'll know when we get to the end of the month whether we can classify this as a front-loaded summer or not. Anyway, that is your 9th Autumn 2023 update. I think it's been a fun update. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. You'll be able to see future weather content, including future long-range updates. Won't be long for starting winter updates now. Of course, when we release the autumn forecast, we'll move on to winter updates. So, yes, please subscribe to our channel, and you'll be able to see future weather content, including future long range. Thank you so much to Richard for our incredible autumn updates gift number 1. Thank you so much to Shrine Brewing, of course, Shrine, for getting all of those years together for us. Hashtag Team Gav, doing a fantastic job as always. As I said, we could be live streaming at 6 p.m. We can live stream for 10 to 14 down. We'll combine it with loads of long range. We're going to show the CFS and Patal Paints analogues for the autumn and also for winter 2023-24. So it's going to be a very, very interesting live stream. Got any questions about this autumn update, then please fire away on the live, and I shall see you hopefully at 6 p.m. for the 9th Autumn 2023 update from GavsWeatherVids. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.